Hello friends, welcome to the Craft Cottage. This week I decided I wanted to try out several different types of crackle medium to see which one works the best or which one I prefer. And I'm going to take you along and show you so you can decide which one you might want to try or which one you like the best, or maybe you have one that I didn't try that you like better. Would love for you to suggest that one in the comments below. What we're going to use are these wood rounds that I picked up at a site that I go to. It's an auction site, and I got a whole lot of these. They're Amazon returns, and I got these, so I know you can get these on Amazon. I ended up paying about 50 cents a piece for these, which is a great deal. So we're going to do them all the same. We're going to use the same background and paint them all the same so that we can compare apples to apples. Then we're going to embellish them all a little bit differently in the end. So let's get started.
These are the basic supplies that we are going to use today to do our projects. We're going to use 5 different crackle mediums. We are going to use the Dixie Bell in the cotton color. We're going to paint all 5 of these wood rounds the same color, so we're starting out with the same base. So it's, we're going to compare apples to apples. And let's get started and see how all of these compare. First, like I said, we're going to cover each one of these with the white Dixie Bell paint in the color cotton, and I'm just going to give it each one good coat. This has great coverage, and these wood rounds are kind of thirsty, and I did spritz them a little bit with my mister bottle with a little bit of water so that they weren't quite so absorbent, so that I got a really nice coat. Now that it's all nice and dry, I did mix up some paint here. I used Farm Fresh and Faded Burlap by DIY to get this color. And our first crackle medium we are going to use is good old Elmer's school glue. I'm just going to pour some out onto my surface, and I'm using a pretty thick coat because I poured out a whole lot. You can use a lot or a little, and at the very end of this video, I'm going to do an experiment to see all the different ways that you can use Elmer school glue to get crackle. So stay tuned for that. Now I'm just going to spread it out all over this entire piece, and then while it's still wet, I'm going to take my color, which this is the color I mixed up, and you want to try not to overlap it. Now the idea is that we want this to look old and crackly, right? So the paint job does not have to be beautiful, but we want to try to get it on there as quickly as possible, use some thick paint, and not go over what we've already painted because it's going to pull back the paint. I like to use a heat gun to go ahead and force some of that crackle. So that's what I'm doing here. And you can see that it got some beautiful thick cracks in it. That's because I used a lot of glue. This one is the Elmer school glue. You can see that beautiful crackle. It's completely dry. Now I'm going to use the new IOD 2026 release mold. These are the crosses. You can say LaCroix, Lescroix, however you want to say that. I don't know how it's correct, but however you want to say it is right. And I'm going to do these 3 crosses, and I'm going to use Sawmill Gravy by Dixie Bell and just sponge it on the 3 crosses. I'm choosing these 3 crosses to represent, you got it, the crosses on Calvary. And I'm going to dry them down with my heat gun. I made Jesus' cross a little bit bigger. I don't think his cross was any different than the other 2 crosses, but I just like to elevate him a little more because he's a little more important to me than the other 2 guys that were being crucified that day. And we'll just elevate him a little bit. So I'm also going to use some dark wax by DIY. You could use any dark wax of your choice, or don't darken them up at all. Paint them whatever color you want. And I'm also going to take a little wooden tag and put some dark wax on it and set it to the side. And I'm going to just glue those 3 little crosses down to our little surface. I'm going to put some, I thought I put some wax on the, maybe I forgot to do it and I'll do it in just a little while. Let's see. But I'm going to put some Titebond Quick and Thick. It's my glue of choice, and it dries quickly and it's a firm hold. But I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue on there just to hold it in place so I can continue working while the Titebond dries. The Titebond does dry in 10 to 15 minutes, but I do not want to have to worry about if these little crosses are going to move in the next 10 to 15 minutes. So we're just going to do that. And then I made a little bow out of some random pieces of ribbon that I had. And then I made a little twine bow to put right in the center of that. And I think it's adorable, but it was missing something. It was just missing something. So guess what? I pulled out the messy moss. My friend Brandy calls it messy moss, and it's the perfect name for this stuff. I just glued a little bit across the bottom, and this one is done. Actually, I put "He is risen" on that little tag and attached it. The next crackle medium we are going to experiment is the folk art crackle. Now we're going to use it as the instructions recommend, which means we are going to put one thin coat on, not overlapping our strokes, but you can see those little stripes in between. You can barely see it. I don't even know if you can see it on there. I couldn't stand it, so I did kind of swipe over a little bit. Then I grabbed out my new tulips mold by IOD and some DOS clay, and I created some molds. Now this is what the crackle looked like when it dried after I painted. I didn't want to be redundant and show you all the paint steps, so I painted it just like I did the previous project. Honestly, I did not get it on tape. I forgot to record, so it would have been very redundant though. I just did it exactly like I did the previous project. And that's the crackle that we got. Now I'm just going to put some of this clay down in the mold. I'm going to press it in firmly, and I'm going to, there are a million different ways, and you're going to see everybody do it a little bit differently. I like to press it in and then just push it away from that micro edge, however you do it, and just make sure that it's full. And then you're going, once it's full, you're just going to roll it out, let gravity let it fall out. Now I'm going to make 2 of those closed tulips and 1 of these beautiful open ones. These are absolutely gorgeous. And then I'm going to just kind of see how I want them placed on here. Just do a little dry run of how I want them to lay on my project. And then I'm going to get out my DOS. No, I'm not going to get out DOS. I already used my DOS. I'm going to get out my Titebond Quick and Thick. And I'm going to start out using this little spatula because I thought this would be a great idea. I do not like to have glue all over my hands. You know, we talked in the last video about pulling the glue off our hands when we were kids and how some people still like to do that. But I ended up using my finger. And I'm using my ring finger because it actually, I learned this doing makeup, that we use the least amount of pressure with that. And you need to be very gentle with these clay molds. Then I used some watered down pink paint. This one is, I'm pretty sure this is, I don't know if this is the pink DIY or the pink Dixie Bell paint. Regardless, just use yourself some pink watered down paint if you want this look, or a light pink. I wanted it to be a very pastel-y looking pink. And so I did 1.5 coats. I did 1 coat when it dried. I kind of went back and did the recessed areas. I wanted to give it some texture, you know, have some dimension. I did the same thing with the green. I watered this green paint. This is English Ivy by Dixie Bell. It's a beautiful green. And then I went back after this coat dried and just used a little bit more paint. And you can see here, I went back in and just gave it another tiny little coat. And then I'm going to take some dark yellow and get the little pieces in there yellow. Now you can see what I'm doing. Now I'm going to take some white wax, and I'm using this fan brush because, I don't know, I thought I was going to kind of dry brush it on there. I think I ended up using some white paint as well. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I just did the wax. Anyway, I put that all on there to bring out all the beautiful details, and then I ended up sealing. You see how I'm just putting it all over. And then I take my little piece of old t-shirt to buff it out. I'm going to take some, guess what? Some chiffon ribbon. Yes, I am. I'm going to just tie a knot in the two ends to create a little hanger. I'm going to get it the size I want. Yep, that's where I want it. I'm going to very gently, I'm not laying it down. I'm going to hold it in my hands. I'm going to staple that knot, and this one is done. Our third one is the Pent Art Crackle. This one has been highly recommended to me to try. I purchased it quite a while ago and just have never used it. It is a two-part, and it comes with very vague instructions, but I figured it out. I did watch a video of someone using it with transfers, so this is what I came up with. I just am using a dry cloth to make sure that there's, no crumbs basically on my surface. I'm going to use the By Any Other Name new IOD release at the time of this video. And there are beautiful florals, very reminiscent of some of their formal florals, but they're absolutely gorgeous. So I'm not going to show you, I am going to show you, just scratch that. I'm going to show you very quickly how to do the rub-on transfers, because I do it in a lot of videos and I don't want it to be boring. But this one has tiny little pieces, so I had to rub quite a bit on it, but it is so pretty. I don't even know really what these words are. I think it says like Bank Central. Probably has nothing to do with florals. I don't know. It has something to do with commerce, but it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. So it's going on the top of this project. Now we're going to put the Crackle medium on after we do our transfer. This made me a little nervous. In fact, it made me very nervous. And I called on my friend Myra. You remember her from Farm Fresh Designs 59. In case anyone's wondering, she's doing great, living her best life as retired now. So kudos to her. And I appreciate all of her help with me, walking me through this project. So I'm just going to put these transfers down. They transferred really easily onto this surface. It was not a real smooth surface. These wood rounds are not always the smoothest, but it transferred down really nicely. And I did not seal it beforehand. I don't ever seal my projects before I put transfers down. I know a lot of people think you have to. And if you are one of those people, by all means, seal your projects first. I'm not telling you not to. You do what you feel is the best for your projects. I just usually kind of buff my project really good with my cotton t-shirts, and I've never had an issue. So I'm going to put these beautiful little butterflies, just like they're fluttering around all around those beautiful roses. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to seal it with the Big Top Sealer. Now I am not sure that this step was completely necessary. I don't even know. I was really kind of confused, but I did it anyway. So I sealed it with the Big Top Sealer and I let it dry completely. Then I use component 1, part 1 of the Pent Art Crackle. And just like all of them, you put, I'm sure, as thin or thick of coat as you want, depending on how much crackle you want. That's what I'm guessing. So I did just a regular coat, just a normal coat, and trying not to overlap too much. And then let it dry completely. These are the instructions. So see, I'm rubbing it. It's dry. It's dry. And I'm hoping for the best. And I'm going to take component number 2, part number 2. And it's very thick and sticky. And I'm going to just put it on, not overlapping. Being careful to get it done. And it started to crackle very quickly. I will say that. So I was trying not to overlap it. But it was very thick. It was very thick and sticky. I think I'm going to show you that here in a minute. And I kept swiping across it like that. No, I didn't show you that it was thick and sticky, but it was kind of like snot, like thick. And then I did use my heat gun a little bit, and you can see there, you can see it on the right side a little bit better. But what really, really makes this crackle show up is when you put the dark wax on it. So I did clear wax first because I didn't want this to get too dark. And then I did my dark wax. So I did clear wax first so the dark wax wouldn't be too dark. Look, I'm putting it just around the edges. I was being so cautious. And then I just went all in. So I put the dark wax all over the project, which I think aged it beautifully. And then that crackle came out. And then I'm just wiping back the excess. And then you can see all that tiny little crackle. I think it turned out beautifully. And then we are going to just put a little hanger on it, and guess what we're doing? We're going through the chiffon ribbon basket. And I had this little lace ribbon that Amanda from Gems of Joy sent me, but I didn't think that it really looked as good as some of this chiffon ribbon. So this is kind of some stretchy chiffon ribbon that I found, and it's kind of like, it's a little less sheer. And so I really liked it. So here we go. Here we go with the staple gun again. And I don't know why I made it so long, but anyway, that's what it is. I tied a little bow. I've decided I wanted a little bow right there on top. I'm just going to hot glue it down, and this one is going to be done. Let me know if you like how this crackle turned out. Okay, moving right along, we're going to try this Arranger Distress Crackle Paste. I had never heard of this before, but I was Googling all kinds of different crackle mediums, and this one popped up. I got it on Amazon, and then I had this little home sign that was in, I got it at Walmart some time ago. I thought I would use it in this project. I'm going to just mix some gray paint in with this crackle medium because the instructions said you could do so. So I'm going to use a palette knife. You could use a popsicle stick. You could use a silicone spatula or whatever you want. You could probably use your fingers. I don't know. But I'm just going to spread it all over, and I really like how this one turned out. You're going to love it. I think you're going to love it. I didn't make it smooth. I left some lines and some thicker and thinner places on it. So I'm going to give it some time to dry. It is the Distressed Crackle Paste, and look at that. So it made thick crackles, and then in between it made some more fine crackles. I love this one. Okay, now we're going to take our little home sign, and we're going to just sponge some black chalk paint on it. It's just regular old black paint, nothing special. I'm just going to sponge it on there, and then I'm going to dry it. I dried it with my heat gun, dried it up really fast. I put a thin coat because, black covers really good. And then I'm going to take some white chalk paint, just regular old white, and dry brush a little bit. I'm not trying to, do a heavy dry brush, just a little bit. Just a little bit, friends. If you want a bunch on there, do a bunch. Then I'm going to take my little finger sander, and I'm going to just sand around the edges a little bit. I'm not trying to distress it a lot. I just want a little bit. Then I'm going to take clear wax by DIY, and I'm just going to wax it. Wipe off the excess, and then I did the same thing. I don't know if I got it on camera. I did seal all of them. So yes, I did. I used that same brush and just sealed down this. It really didn't feel like it needed a sealer, but I sealed it anyway. We're going to use our Type Bond Quick and Thick, and we're going to adhere our little home wood piece down to our wood round. Now I had some little scraps of fabric, and I just snipped and ripped. You've seen me do that on this channel before. And then I'm trying to find the end.
Oh, my goodness. Where is the end? Nobody knows. There it is.
Okay, here we go. So I'm going to just cut some little strips. We're going to put it together, and we're going to make a bow. Okay, let's just crisscross it like an awareness ribbon. Pinch it up in the middle. Take some of that eyelash yarn, wrap it around, tie it up. We're going to just tie it loosely first. Well, tie it tight, but just once. Then just fluff our little loops how we want them. And then when we get it all fluffed up, then we'll tie it tightly in a knot and then trim off the excess. And we have a little messy bow. Cute as can be. We're just going to hot glue it where we want it. Right up there up top is where I want it. And voila, we are done. Our fifth and final crackle medium is the Dixie Bell Crackle. This one is the same as the others. We're just going to give it a thin coat. This may be the one that I felt like was real slimy. Here we go. This is the snotty, slimy one that I showed you. I thought it was the previous one. It was kind of snotty, slimy too. We're going to wait. We're going to let it dry. And then we're going to come back with this Dixie Bell Crackle one. I'm trying to keep myself on track by labeling them. We're going to use the French Millinery paint by DIY. You can see it's all crusty. I haven't used it in a while. And then very carefully, I'm trying to get it close to the edge as I can. I don't want that white showing through, but you have to work quick because this crackles very fast. I do love this crackle. This may be my favorite of the crackle that's supposed to be a crackle, but the Elmer School Glue is definitely my favorite of all. This one, I love the crackle you get with this as far as one of the ones that's supposed to be a crackle medium. Okay, I'm going to use the stamp, the veranda stamp, these little florals. And this stamp doesn't stamp real well on this wood round because, like I said earlier when I was talking about another one of them, is they're not real smooth. But it does give me the look that I want because I want this to look very old and vintage and like it's been in your grandmother's attic and someone just pulled it out and found it and it looks like it's been up there for ages. So this is what it looked like. Now I'm going to put the mask. The IOD stamps come with these masks, and I'm not really that great at using them, but this one turned out good. So I'm putting the mask over what I've already stamped because I want this part to look like it's coming out from behind it, or it's actually part of the stamp. I need it to be a little bit bigger. I wanted a little bit more of those florals. You have to really press down really good and get it really close to that mask. Otherwise, you will have a line. So I practiced on some paper first, and then look, it is perfection. But I am going to take my little finger sander and just sand it down a little bit so that it looks a little bit more rustic. Now, I used the gray grunge. I really wish I would have used a little bit of clear first, but I do love how this turned out. I love how the gray grunge got down in the cracks of the some of the crackle and not some of it. I love it, and I love how it just darkened everything up. Now I have this little wood embellishment piece. I got a bunch of them in a package off of Temu or somewhere like that. I don't know, somewhere online, maybe Amazon. And I'm going to take the gray grunge wax and just give it all a really good coat. And then I'm taking this Dixie Bell Dirt. It's called Dirt, y'all. And it makes this look so old and grungy. I love it. I love it on top of this gray grunge wax. And wait till you see it up close. I'm going to use the Titebond Quick and Thick to glue this down to the top piece. I mean, this so reminds me, I'm going to clean that excess glue off there too, but that little piece so reminds me of something you would see on an antique piece of furniture that's been sitting in a garage or a, basement or somewhere that's all dusty. I just put some wax, dark wax on this little piece of ribbon because I wanted it to, look grungy. And then I'm going to staple this ribbon down. It's kind of the theme, stapling the ribbon to the back of the wood round at the bottom and the top, and this one is done. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to take the Elmer School Glue and just use a lot of different techniques. Okay, I put some Elmer School Glue on there with a little piece of the bristle from the brush, and I'm going to let this one dry completely. And then I'm going to apply just a little bit of glue. I'm going to apply cross hatch, and then I'm going to apply less, more paint, and no no paint. So let's get started with this. So just doing that, you're just going to see, just watch and you'll see how all of these turn out. The Elmer school glue is definitely my favorite method. It's the cheapest method, and you can see all the different types of crackle you can get just using the Elmer school glue.
I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments below which was your favorite, which crackle medium that you're going to try if you haven't tried one already. Like I said in the beginning, if you have a favorite, drop that down in the comments below. Share with our community. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Also, if you're not subscribed, make sure you're subscribed. But most of all, I want you to remember to be still and know that He is God.